what the value of that property is going to be looking forward. So, I mean, the issue here you have here is, we've advertised it based upon the application you gave us, right?
Okay.
The county is not going to give you abatements above and beyond what is in it. So if you're saying that there's going to be a real property investment that is actually greater and result in a higher valuation, they're not going to give you all that. They're going to give you what's passed on this.
Gotcha.
And then if there's a swap out in values next year when you come back for your the CF1 reports and everything, the council's going to be looking at the numbers you prepared, and they have to decide whether you're in substantial compliance as to whether it continues. And so that's a balance. The bigger thing is, if there's going to be a value bump, you think in a real property,
We probably should, is there an amendment to that?
You
see
can.
SB1 we can do now, or should we wait until the next meeting when we got a more solid number?
Yes. Let's table, let's continue, whatever you call it, till the next meeting. Sorry that we'd have to re-advertise it, but we can still do it in 2 weeks, right?
yeah, because we have to have 10 days to advertise it.
I think that's the best.
Okay, I'll get you sized.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
That's a lot of money.
No, once a year.
I think you pay your attorney 3 times a month, though.
Yeah, sure seems like it.
Might get mad at me for not wearing this.
Do what?
Rebecca's gonna get mad at me for not wearing this.
Gentlemen, are you ready? Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for an invocation. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear God, as we gather this evening, this council thanks you for the privilege that it is to serve this fine community. We ask for strength, courage, and wisdom, and ask that you continue to bless our town. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. Call to order the January 18th meeting of the Mooresville Town Council. Gentlemen have had a chance to read the minutes from our previous meeting. I need a motion to either approve or amend the minutes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes as written from January 4th, 2022.
Motion been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Dustin Gregg, 5-0. Unfinished business, comprehensive thoroughfare and thoroughfare plan presentation. Shannon Cole. Right there.
Thank you, Council. Hi, I'm Shannon Cole. I don't know if you guys remember me or not. I was the mayor of Martinsville for 4 years. I'm introducing to you tonight my coworker, Corey Weitzel. I'm now with HWC, which is an engineering firm out of Indianapolis. We have 5 locations. We serve a lot of Indiana. They were very helpful to me when I was mayor. They've done our comp plan. They've worked a lot in Morgan County. When I did the economic development plan for I-69, they were instrumental in helping me get the Ohio Street interchange, which was a very big deal for Martinsville. We could not have gotten it without their help. So when I talked to Shane reached out to me for some guidance with a comprehension plan. And of course, I went to Corey. So we've done some things to work out with some numbers and some data that we had in our system. Corey is really good at what he does. And we also, HWC, helped you guys in the past with your comprehension plan. So Corey, I'll go ahead and turn it over to him. So thank you guys for having us, and thanks to everybody for coming. So it's good to see a lot of you guys tonight. I haven't seen you for a long time, so good to see you.
Corey, do you want to pass these out to the relevant commissioners? And okay. She has, for those commissions and boards that have been invited for the joint meeting, so If you'll raise your hand, she has handouts for you.
Well, thanks a lot for your time this evening. My name's Corey Weitzel with HWC, and we really do appreciate the chance to talk to you a little bit. What we wanted to just give you an introduction to is, what are some of the reasons why you should be thinking about a comprehensive plan right now? And with that, why is HWC an appropriate person to help you with that? And then a little bit about what is included in that process of doing a comp plan and a thoroughfare plan. So we'll walk through that, answer any questions that you have to make sure that we're on the same page as we go through this. So, boy, it was working a minute ago, Shannon, so now it's not. All right, so it's locked up on me. So we're going to do it without PowerPoint tonight. So it'll be great. So, so again, my name is Corey Weitzel. I'm with HWC. My role at HWC is I serve as our Director of Planning. And in that role as Director of Planning, I oversee all of our comp plans and thoroughfare plans and other work that we do. We do have a thorough team for this. So that includes Chris Ham, who's our Economic Development Director, Rachel Christensen. She would be the day-to-day point of contact for this. Rachel comes with us with a dozen years experience in community planning. She was the town planner for town of Pendleton for many, many years and has joined us, and she's just a whole lot of fun to work with on this. And then certainly Shannon Cole will be part of this as well. So we get into thinking about why should you be thinking about planning. The ultimate question becomes, look at some of the things that are happening around you right now and how they are going to begin to influence Mooresville. Look to the south and we see what I-69 is doing, the amount of development that's going to happen and how that's concentrating development into locations and pushing your direction. You look over to your west and you see Monrovia beginning after many years of not wanting to grow is now accepting growth and saying, how do we start to manage growth on their terms, decide what they want to have happen, and they're embracing some development. In between, Plainfield is proposing a new interchange on I-70. That's going to bring development just to your immediate west. These things are happening around you no matter what is happening within the city, and those developments that happen on your periphery are going to impact services, people, development in your community. And so you need to be prepared for that and ask the question, what does growth and development look like for you? Not what's happening other places, but what is, the terminology we use is what is growth on your terms, not on developers' terms, not on what is happening in somewhere else and the decisions they're pushing on you, but what do you want to have happen within your community? And it's different everywhere we work. We work with some places that are high growth. Let's take it on, let's have it happen. We do a lot of work in Whitestown. We've done their planning and they platted thousands of units last year in a single year. Flip side of that, you got Bargersville, who has some areas that are some of the most high growth potential areas in the state, and they're saying a lot of these areas just outside the interchange, they're going to keep as very rural because that's their terms, that's what they want. In between, we've got everything from, we've worked in communities like Noblesville that helped their last comprehensive plan, and they're structuring growth in a very particular way to add what's called missing middle housing. They want to see more duplexes and quadplexes to have a more dense development instead of sprawl going on and on and on. Where you fit on this spectrum is not for me to decide, it's not for developers to decide, it's what do you want to see happen, and as a community, you need to make those decisions ahead of time. And that creates an environment that is, friendly for developers that want to come in, because they can see in advance what your expectations are and they're not surprised. So they're willing to do it if their terms match what your terms are. It's not trying to make it easy for development, it's trying to set clear expectations along those lines. I think the other thing that we ask as it comes to development is, what do you guys want to see happen in terms of population? The last 20 years your population has remained stagnant and an area around you has been growing. Now, stagnant population is not necessarily a bad thing, but when you look at today's environment, you've got the state of Indiana pushing programs like READY, which is all about workforce attraction, quality of place, because they realize that if we are not bringing in workforce, we're not meeting the biggest need that so many employers have. You know, that it's a question you got to tackle one way or another. Maybe you don't want to grow. Maybe you want to be there. Even if that's the case, you still need a strategy that says, how do we protect the employers that are here? How do we make sure we're meeting their needs for a growing workforce, you know, if your community is not necessarily growing? You have to answer those questions, decide what your strategy is. The other key issue with planning is thinking through, how are you going to capture the opportunities that are out there? You know, we worked on the regional plan for this region, included Morgan County as well as your adjacent counties. $50 million in ready funding, $800 million in projects were identified, ended up getting a $20 million grant, but there are no Mooresville projects on that list. And you know, what that means is you're missing out on opportunities. So the way projects are funded is changing. Used to be you come up with a good application, a good project, and hey, go after it. What is increasingly being required by funding agencies is that your projects that you identify need to not just be, you know, the latest idea this week, but they need to be documented in a plan somewhere. We're even seeing it go a step further of not just putting a plan in a strategic plan or a thoroughfare plan. So many agencies like Okra now wants to see it also come out of a regional plan, and you get points based on that. So you're at a distinct disadvantage if you do not have a plan that supports this. You've got to start to take your projects. You know, you guys missed out on Ready 1, but they're already talking about Ready 2.0, and that is a huge opportunity coming up. We got an infrastructure bill coming. It's going to funnel more money potentially for transportation improvements. You've got MPO funding. We've got a series of different sources. A good comprehensive plan identifies what your needs are, and it says, how do we start to identify the projects that address those and the funding sources to implement it? So that's some of the things that when we look at Mooresville, this is what we see happening and the things that you need to be asking about as you tackle planning. So what goes into a plan? Well, normally we would say, let's start with a comprehensive plan, and then you may have some additional planning work, such as going into details on a thoroughfare plan. In this case, I think that you are very well served to do both a comprehensive plan and a thoroughfare plan at the same time. The biggest reason is that your transportation networks are poised to change dramatically over the next 10 years. Again, the interchange that you're looking at the new one on 70, with what is already happening with Morgan County having completely revamped their thoroughfare plan to adjust to having fewer access points to 37, I-69. You are in a position where you really need to dig into those details and decide how that is going to influence short and long-term development decisions in and around the town. So we recommend doing both together. You can do one public participation effort to cover both of those topics, so it will be more cost-effective to do them together than if you were to do it separately. As you look at a plan, the way we approach planning is there's 3 or 4 things you want to accomplish in a plan. So just kind of pause on this for a second. The first thing that you always want to do in a plan is cast a vision. What do we want to be? What do we want to accomplish? Okay, cast that vision of it. But it can't just be solely coming from the folks sitting up here. What it really requires is the second thing, which is building consensus in the community. It's an outreach effort that brings everybody into this process and gives everyone a chance to participate. Let me give you an example. So we've been working on the updated comprehensive plan for the town of Danville. Danville's just a hair bigger than you guys. They're about 10,000 in population. We did initial public outreach, which we used some videos, an online workshop, and we had 1,000 responses to our survey to get feedback as to what should come into the community, what development is needed, and what is appropriate. On top of that, we put out a mapping tool, because transportation is one of the biggest issues in that community. We put out online mapping, and we had over 3,000 comments on maps saying, we need a turn lane here, we need to fix a pothole over here. And what that becomes is data that you use to come up with initial ideas, but we didn't stop that feedback there. We also had an open house part of the way through it to say, this is what we're hearing, With that open house, we also put it out online. We had 50 people come to a workshop. That's not crazy numbers, but in COVID, that's a pretty good response. But we had 500 people fill out a survey and give us more feedback afterwards. And what that gave the community was data points to make decisions on. And it changed it. The feedback that we got took a plan that was a little bit more aggressive. The steering committee wanted more, and it dialed it back to something the community was very comfortable with. So you cast a vision of what you want to be, you build consensus around that, you find what the community will support, and that is what you use to develop your plan. The strategy of what you're going to do, how you're going to do it. But the fourth component, after you build that plan, is an action steps. How are you going to implement it? A plan is not just there to look pretty on a shelf and pat yourself on the back says we got a plan. It has to be used to be effective. And that becomes the most important thing. What does it look like to pay for it? How do we get creative and solve some of the problems and really start to work on implementation? That's what we believe makes a good plan. So last thing I guess I would just say is that we think HWC would be a good fit to help you. When we look at those things happening around you, I think that the thing I would tell you is we did the Thoroughfare Plan for Morgan County. We did the comprehensive plan for the county. We did the comprehensive plan for Martinsville. We just updated a plan for Monrovia. We did the Thoroughfare Plan for Plainfield recently that included that new interchange. We did the Thoroughfare Plan for Hendricks County. We also did the White River Township and Johnson County transportation plan. So it really comes down to it. Our team understands those things that are happening in and around you that are going to influence you. That gives you the best ability to have the right data, accurate information to make decisions about your future. So that certainly helps. We've got a vast experience working in central Indiana and the challenges that are here. We've worked on some of the regional planning in this area, so we know it not just for what you are doing, but in context to the larger area around it. And then you go back a dozen years, and I was part of the team on your last comprehensive plan, so I am familiar with the town. I live just 20 minutes north of here and understand this area. And so we would appreciate the chance to participate in this. Regardless of what you're doing, a very important point where that you have the planning coming up is really essential to your future. But it's not just what other people want to have happen. It's about you deciding what you want to have happen and really just rolling up your sleeves and making sure everybody's on board. So thanks for your time. I'd be happy to answer any questions that I can and figure out what happened to my computer that locked up.
Questions, Jeff?
I have none.
Kane?
What are specific components, just for the benefit of the people here? So, for example, like land use would be one. What are some other components of a comp plan?
So a comprehensive plan is a broad set of topics that you look at. So it's going to be land use. It's going to be economic development. We're going to look at housing. We're going to look at quality of place. We're going to look at parks and recreation. We'll look at natural resources. So a comp plan is really broadly, how do your goals apply to a range of topics, and you want to set goals in each of those. So there's usually about 10 or 15 chapters that will go into it that you will cover as a part of this. Transportation is one of those, utilities is one of those. In this case, a thoroughfare plan will spend a little bit more time on the transportation component, and we'll actually have a separate document for that. A thoroughfare plan will be based on your comprehensive plan, but ultimately it sets a road network and then establishes classifications for the roads as well as typical designs, sections for those roads, so you know how much right-of-way to reserve as you develop. For example, in the town of Whitestown, we use that plan as a basis for a few things. One of them has been a new roadway corridor that they needed to develop. That master plan that came out of there, identifying that this new roadway corridor was really important. Last week, the MPO has announced that will be funded, and that's $10 million coming into that community to fund something because they followed the MPO process. The other thing that we're using it for, though, is intersection improvements. We've identified key intersections where we think that there's going to be improvements in the future, and so we've established right-of-way dedication requirements around intersections so that we can have space for whether it's a roundabout or a signal. But as development is occurring, we want to make sure we're using that document to reserve space for the future, and so we're not making short-term decisions. So a lot of different issues go into a plan like this, and it really comes out of what is the public interested in, and we'll work through that.
How long does it take from start to finish, and what boards do you include in this, and describe the process briefly like you just did the other question?
Certainly. The plan is ultimately goes to the Plan Commission. The Plan Commission would provide a recommendation to the town council, so they'll vote on it, provide a recommendation to council, and then council ultimately adopts it. Now, to get to that point, we'll start with a steering committee. Steering committee will be a wide representation of the different boards across the community. Usually it's 10 to 20 people. That will just guide the decision-making. We'll have 4 or 5 steering committee meetings through that process. And they will look at all these topics. They will review the public participation work that we do as we do outreach. And from those recommendations, they will make the decisions and recommendations. We will draft the plan based on the guidance that we get from them. And that plan will be presented to the public at a couple different times. We'll do initial feedback to ask for input. After we ask for input, we will do an open house to say, here's what we've heard so far. Are we going the right direction? And then towards the end, after we've drafted a copy of the plan, we'll publish it and we'll present it to the public and say, have we heard what you wanted correctly? And then we begin the review and adoption process. Again, Plan Commission first, and then to the council. We will do stakeholder meetings as well, which means let's get together folks that are interested in economic development. Let's have a small group meeting about housing. Let's have different conversations with law enforcement and public safety. And in other communities, downtown, there's a range of topics we'd want to get into. It's broad, there's a lot of participation. The process generally is going to take you a year with doing both of these. And if you started now, you would be looking at adoption at this time next year.
Can you briefly describe what's in this for the people that have these little books? Just an overview? Or...
Sure. The booklet is simply a statement of our qualifications to do this. So it includes a little bit of our project team, gives you some examples of some of the work that we have done in other communities, a little bit of the story there. It also provides our project approach and breaking down some of the key components of this. So it is simply a statement of qualifications and gives you background into who we are and what would be involved in the process.
I have one more two-part question, then I'll pass it on. One, how often do you recommend these be done? I think ours was in the 09 timeframe, so 2 presidents ago. And I guess that's really all I had.
We see communities, it varies wildly. We see most communities, a recommendation is about every 10 years that you want to have a real complete update. Some will update it more often. We do these every 5 years in some communities, but generally 10 years is the range that are effective, just because you can't look out that far. You are overdue for a refresh of your plan, though, based on that age.
I remembered the second part of the question. Okay. When I looked at a sample plan, I think it was Danville. I don't know if it's a complete plan or if it's largely complete if you're still working with them, but I noticed in that plan, the ones you do today, I thought it was far superior to the one that was done back in 09. What's changed what changed between that plan and this plan? I mean, just technology or your expertise? It looked more detailed, for example. Talk about that.
Well, certainly, I think if you look at the old plan, it addressed the issues of the time, which are different from today's issues. So I think from a relevant standpoint, anything you look at that's 10 or 12 years old is going to, the content's not going to look as relevant to where we are facing today. I'll tell you, the team that we've got in place at HWC has evolved over the years, and we've added some really quality people that are adding good content to our plans. We've got folks that are good both in terms of presenting content, but also in formatting in ways that's easy to understand. One of the things that I think that we didn't do a good job as good a job as we could 10 or 15 years ago is just the graphic quality to make sure you communicate things well. Understanding what we're talking about, some of these planning concepts, is not always easy to the public. And so the more we can break down barriers and let people see the content and visualize it in ways they can understand is critical. And we've just doubled down on that and making sure our plans are not only strong content, because that's the most important thing, but also it's easy to pick up, review it, scan it, and really know your audience, because it's got to serve both the resident who picks it up and says, how does this impact me and my business? It has to address the business owner who's saying, I'm ready to invest, but what's going to happen on the properties next to me? This kind of a plan needs to address a developer that says, I'm willing to come into your community. What should I know about your community to cater a development that is going to best be received where I'm going to be successful? A lot of different audiences, and I think catering that and dialing that in so it addresses all those that need to use this plan has been one of the things we've done a lot better job of over the last few years.
Okay, thanks.
Greg, questions?
Very well explained. No, my big question is dollars, which we can proceed with, but my mind's always made up by the dollars it costs.
I have just a few. When you worked on our 2009, we did have a non-jurisdictional controlled buffer zone. I think you guys came and set up a little meeting here when the county was doing their comprehensive plan. I think we had the public workshops then. Now that's being used kind of against us because of the time frame and their relevant comprehensive plan and the way the law reads as far as they're wanting to abolish, they being the planning commission at the county level and then also the county commissioners. And having a discussion with one of the county commissioners, they feel like most of their UDO is either as stringent or not quite as stringent as. So when we look at that, and we look at our 6.7 miles or 6.2 square miles of Mooresville proper, and you say that you've done the counties, you say that you've done West, White River Township, I know that's outside of our county, but then we're landlocked to the north with Hendricks County. You talk about Plainfield's ideas, and right now they've annexed a lot of ground right almost up to our county line. So how do we take our thoroughfare plan and our comprehensive plan and say this is an area that we have no control over, this is an area that these other communities have spent money on, and then buck heads with them? Or do you consider that part of the comprehensive plan already completed on someone else's dime?
It is certainly something that needs a lot of conversation as part of this process. We've got to look at those areas, because even if they're not technically part of your jurisdiction because of that decision that the county made, those areas impact the decisions that you're making. And whether it's who's the first responder to those areas, whether it is, that development that happens there and how does that impact your utilities. There's a lot of decisions that happen within that, and that was the reason you considered extraterritorial jurisdiction at the time. What we recommend is don't look at a comprehensive plan of just what is the boundary today, but it's also what might the boundary become in 5 years or 10 years. So you do want to look out beyond your current jurisdiction and make recommendations for that. Doesn't mean that you control that, but you can, in cooperation with the county, influence it, in participation and coordination. But as that development wants to come in or change, you may want to think about extending utilities proactively into an area so that you get the right kind of development adjacent to the community. I don't know where you're going to sit on this. There may be a decision that says, look, all those areas west of town that are going to open up for development as a result of this new interchange, maybe it's just that's the county and we want to keep where we are as we are. That's a decision. Change is happening around you. It's not just about growth, but it's that managing the change and helping to navigate that process. So it's an important question. I don't have all the answers here today. That's a discussion that we have to have, and we have to have it as an open and honest conversation and involve the commissioners in some of that discussion.
when we do our comprehensive plan, do we invite the citizens of Mooresville? Do we invite the people that surround Mooresville? And what if your comprehensive plan that we pay you for is in direct, it's adverse to what the county is saying? What happens then?
I think that part of what we do is just facilitate good conversations, because that's happened, and we work in some places that not everybody gets along. We realize that. And so you have conversations, and you do everything you can to work it out. And if your plan needs to say something different than where the county's going, then that's what your plan needs to say. You may not solve everything during this comprehensive plan. To think we can look at every issue that's going to come up in the next 15 or 20 years, next 5 or 10 years, and resolve it all in a 12-month process, it's not going to happen. There'll be a lot of things that we kind of put a bookmark there and say, okay, here's what we know now. Conditions might change. We need to make a decision on this in the future. We're not going to solve everything on this. The only way it works is to get people in a room and start talking about it. And if it ultimately needs to be different than somebody else's, you put in what is best for you.
How far out and I know Hendricks County is a little bit, they don't really have any buffer zones either. How far out did Danville go? How far out does Plainville go? When they look at their comprehensive plan, do they look at that magic 2 miles out, 5 miles, or?
Much further. You look at Plainfield, and they were looking almost all the way out to 39 as they did their plans, and theirs were much further. Their corporate limit is much further back, because they knew that the construction of that new interchange was going to add all this development that was going to come onto their utilities. Danville looked at the same sort of thing. They looked at areas further west of town. They looked at areas further north. They looked at areas that are not going to develop in the next 20 years to the south, and they put some areas to say, hey, we don't want to develop this in the next 20 years, because if we do, it's going to cause us these issues down the road. Sometimes it's also what we would call more of a scenario-based plan. So one of the things that we did in Danville was said, this area here is open for development now, but this area next to it does not have roads in place. It does not have utilities in place, so we don't want to see any development come in out here because it's not ready. So it can develop when X, Y, and Z happen, but not till then. So you have to look well beyond. Most good comprehensive plans look beyond your borders. Sometimes it's a mile, sometimes it's a few miles. It just depends on the issue. The magnitude of changes that they were planning in Plainfield made them look much further out in terms of a thoroughfare plan network. Yours don't have to look out a whole lot further than those 2 miles, but you still got a lot happening to that west area that you need to have a lot of conversation about.
And how much cooperation do you see between counties as far as with having the county line at our north boundary? How well do you see that as far as cooperation? Or maybe even Plainfield, as they move in, obviously, their fights with other communities in Hendricks County, if they're any indication, we're going to get beat.
Well, I think that we have to recognize that we all don't get along internally on all issues, and we don't all agree on it, but we can start to work together. I think the one thing that's been exciting about this READY program has been seeing Hendricks County, Morgan County, Johnson County, Putnam County, Boone County, all sitting in the same room, working together on these kind of issues. One of the things that we talked about in that READY program was the biggest economic development opportunities that are happening in this region are happening at county lines. And you look at 69 and 144, we look at the couple of interchanges on 70, whether we look at Ronald Reagan as we go up to Boone County. These are places, those developments are happening along county lines right now. And if we don't have cooperation, we're not going to catch the full benefit of those. So I think we're starting a different approach, which is, hey, let's see what it looks like to work together. That is not going to be seamless, and that's not going to be perfect, because everyone has to protect their communities and their counties. But I do see cooperation that's not been as much in the past really starting to change. And, just through that READY process, we've seen a lot of networking between county officials and town officials that never got in the same room together before, that now know each other's names and phone numbers and can work together a little bit. It won't be easy. This is the hard part. Regionalism is hard. It's really hard.
This is professional services.
Okay, final question. You guys think you know what I'm gonna ask?
How much?
How much? What is it? What is a very non-conservative, what we're looking at the end of the day?
If you did a comprehensive plan and a thoroughfare plan independently, you're generally talking about, $75,000 for each. So a total of $150,000. If you do these together, we think it's in that $120,000 to $125,000 range, something in that kind of ballpark if you do them together at the same time.
We did it in '09, so we have a rewards card. Can you punch it and do we get a discount?
I like the way you think. This sounds like me going shopping. Unfortunately, I think the rewards membership expired 10 years ago.
There you
go. But no, I mean, there's some real work that needs to be done. And the difference between a cheaper plan, because you ask somebody, you're going to find somebody to tell you they can do it for less money. Okay, that's bottom line. You ask enough people, you'll find somebody that can do it for less. Here's what they're doing. They're cutting out public engagement. The decision-making process, the time it takes to prep a plan is consistent on these. Okay, that doesn't really change much. What you're doing is cutting either one of two things. You're either cutting public engagement at the beginning to get good input, because that takes time, that takes software, that takes more meetings, and that takes videos, that takes ways of meeting people where they are today. Everything that we do online is a hybrid model, so it's in person and online. It's not exclusive one way or another, and that model is what is giving us good results. The other thing that you don't ever want to cut is the action plan part of this. Again, if all I do is give you a plan that says, here's all the ideas, good luck, what good does that do? Until you have a plan that says, here's what we're going to do, here's how we're going to pay for it, here's which group is going to drive it, and who's responsible, and then give me a time frame. Until you start to answer those questions, you're not really getting an effective plan. And doing that takes time. And so, yeah, you can do these. If you go to Okra and you fund this through Okra, they're going to say somewhere between $50,000 or up. You need to spend a little bit more money to do a good plan. And that's what you guys you're at the point of being able to do. And doing them together is the most cost-effective way to tackle it.
Do you make sure that our thoroughfare plan matches the thoroughfare plan of the communities outside of us? Because
Yes.
I don't want you to say, hey, you need this road right here, and it goes nowhere. Or the county saying, hey, we need this road here, and it coming nowhere.
It's absolutely got to connect in. And your standards are different. What you're going to find out is the standards that you have are going to be different than what the standards for the county has, which are going to be different than Monrovia's, which are going to be different than Johnson County's. So how do you layer all these things together is part of the challenge of doing a good thoroughfare plan, because we got all these jurisdictions. We got some different tools and techniques we can show you in that process. And one of the things that we've done a lot of is context zones, where we create different areas, have different standards to address what those transitions are be. So there's a lot of ways to tackle that, but if we don't look at it and say, hey, if we just make a quick change and everything lines up, let's do the thing that's common sense and easier for all of us. That's a good question.
Now, do we work with the state? We have a lot of state road connections here. Is the state involved in it in any way, or?
We'll reach out to them if we
like
need to and bring them in as a stakeholder, but every community we work with has a state road and has got an NDOT issue or concern. We were doing a comp plan in Owen County today, and we had a first meeting with NDOT, bringing them into that, because you got to have conversations, because there's 3 or 4 key issues coming up that directly impact NDOT. If it's the MPO that we need to coordinate with, we can bring them in. We're going to identify stakeholders that we need to talk to. And the first challenge in that plan is, who all do we need to talk to in this process to make sure we're going to do a good job? So that's absolutely right. Got to bring them in and have the conversation. But they're not the ones sitting in a steering committee making decisions for you. They're a stakeholder that we get their input and make decisions off of that.
Dave, don't tell them we got 3 districts here in Mooresville, okay? So is the 125 a solid price?
We can do it for that, yes.
So is 110 a solid price?
Do I hear 105?
I was gonna say, I'll go 55.
No, we can do it for 125. We absolutely can.
Gentlemen, I met with one of the county commissioners and the county administrator, and they did promise me that they were going to get me the comprehensive plan from the county. I don't know, maybe you guys have seen it. I have not.
I've not seen that one.
I think I need that in front of me, kind of look at it. I'll request 5 copies. We can all look at it, kind of get a feel for what he's pricing us, and go from there.
Yeah, and I can even email the county comp plan and thoroughfare plan to you guys if that would help. We certainly have that.
Is that fair? Is it
It's a public document.
public document? Do you have Monrovia's done?
I do have their comprehensive plan, yes.
Do you have Plainfield's?
It's scary, say it.
I mean, just so we can just see what we're looking at as far as the areas coming in.
I'd be happy to share those with you.
We maybe will write our own. No, just kidding.
If you want to do that.
No.
Go ahead, because you will call me back and you'll say, Corey, please fix
Maybe
this.
200.
And it will be more expensive.
Copy paste.
It's kind of like that home renovation project when you're in over your head.
Yeah.
But no, be happy to send you some examples of what you're seeing in other places that I think would give you some good understanding of what you're getting into. A county plan is very different than a plan for a town. Different set of issues, different set of challenges. They're night and day difference from my standpoint. But we'd certainly send you a couple of the town ones that we've done too, so you can see it.
Well, and if you have the county broken down in sections, because I know when you guys came in and we had the public, you had posters back there that just had this area. I'm satisfied with that, just this
Yeah, we'll
section.
send it over to you.
And you know, it would be kind of exciting because you talked about the communications, and yeah, they're better than what they were, but they're still very guarded at times. And I'd like to see what the plan is north. Because I know a lot of that property that is now annexed in Plainfield up to us was abatement property, was mitigated property. So.
In Plainfield, we did their thoroughfare plan, so we don't have we didn't make land use recommendations. We did their thoroughfare plan, so we can show you the road connections.
You didn't do
We did not do a comprehensive plan for Plainfield. We did their thoroughfare plan.
Comments or questions?
Should we let the commissioners and so forth?
Oh, yeah, if there's anyone here from the planning commission that has questions, now, forever hold your peace? No.
Very thorough.
Just like a thoroughfare plan.
Ouch.
Nobody laughed, but I tried.
It's all right, they laughed when I tried to chisel them down.
Yeah.
I don't get that. I guess if you can email us that, Shane, you've been in contact with them. Maybe if we all get a chance to look at it, then we'll have you set a date for them to come back in and go from there.
Okay.
And you're saying that it is professional services.
This is professional
We don't have to bid it.
services. It's an engineering thing, so you can retain it however you want to retain it. You can go out for RFPs, or you can just go with one. So.
I did have one more quick question. With let's say the thoroughfare plan, and let's say you make a recommendation for a new road, let's just say. How much engineering goes into that for you to be able to say, we recommend a road here, and yes, it is doable in this area that we recommend?
Well, that's a complicated question. So if it's flat cornfield, we're not going to do a lot of engineering on it and look
Right.
at it. You know, as HWC, we've got both. What I think is interesting about us is that we are not just planners. You know, I've got across the hall, I've got our site development experts that do work for, commercial and residential industrial builders. I've got our transportation engineering, I've got bridge engineering. I've got drainage experts. So when we put together a plan, we vet those things out. Now, we're not going to do a full feasibility analysis for every single road, but we do put in there that, hey, we think that these are our top priorities. And so what I try to think about at this plan is that you're going to pick a handful of things that are your highest priorities. Right? And this is what we will encourage you to do. A plan that says, here's 100 things to do in the next 10 years is too much. What we will do, especially on Thoroughfare Plan, is we'll help you narrow your priorities down to the things that you want to focus in on. And so let's say one of those priorities is a section of road that you want to connect. Maybe there's some floodplain, maybe there's a potential bridge, maybe there's a wetland issue. We'll take enough of a look at it to be able to give you a high level of confidence in a budget range on that. But we don't want to do that for everything, but we want to do it for the things that are the short term. You know, your priorities in 5 years are going to change. But those things that are the next 5-year action plan, that strategy, we want to dig into some details on those for this. But also, you know, and just in general, if we think there's any potential of an issue, we're going to vet it internally to say, hey, this could be a problem, and we may recommend a study or something that could adapt that plan a little bit down the road. So you may have additional homework to do beyond just this plan on those more complicated projects.
The last question, I promise. I'm sorry.
No,
I keep coming up. I heard you briefly mention Okra. Do you know of any grants that they have for this, for a comp? I don't know if they do them if you consider this a new comp plan or an updated one from the last one.
Yeah, so Okra does do grants, but I don't believe you're eligible for those grants for this.
Okay.
So they do $50,000 grants, but it's based on income, and I don't believe you meet the threshold.
Okay, that's what I was afraid of. Okay.
Thoroughfare Plan, if you go into our state road corridor, which is a limited access highway, will it give us the teeth to be able to say, hey, between our engineering company that did our Thoroughfare Plan, they see, and the state, have some teeth with the state to be able to change something on a limited access highway?
I think that is a subset of that's a separate detailed issue. Changing limited access is hard. It's going to take more than a plan like this to change that. That's going to take some real engineering study to prove to them why that's needed. So that's a hard one. There may be a recommendation to evaluate it. We'll tell you what steps you need to take to address it. But including that's a complicated and messy issue, and it's a hard uphill fight. So
Unless you're Sam Walton.
I'll just, you'll hear me be straight on these things. That one's just a hard one. Getting NDOT to change that does not come easily.
Right. Gentlemen, is the consensus all right with, well, we'll get the copies of his plans, he'll email them to all of us, and then at a later meeting, the 5 of us will set a time and have you come back in.
Thank you for your time this evening. It was good to see everybody. And if questions come up in the meantime, feel free to reach out to us, and Shane's got our contact information.
Corey, if you want, just go ahead and shoot me a boilerplate contract. I can start making my tweaks on that, depending on how they move forward, so.
Make your tweets. We'll make my tweet. 300-page paper, and you call it a book.
Forward your contact to the clerk and have her disseminate it to the boards in case somebody out here wants to ask a question individually.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, next item on the agenda is a pro-build confirmatory resolution. Mike had requested, there are some numbers changing. They're fluid. I think they're saying that they may have a larger investment, which is always good. They may have a larger investment. When we set the abatement, we set it for a specific dollar amount. If they are under that, that is acceptable. If they are over that, they lose that portion of the abatement. Mike has asked that the pro-build confirmatory resolution on their personal and real property be tabled at this time. Is that correct?
Yes, please. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mike, as soon as you get those numbers, I mean,
You'll have them in hand.
yeah, if we can get it within the time frame for the next meeting, then we can put the advertisement out to incorporate those nice
I noted
numbers.
the bill that we needed it expediently, so we'll get them to Diane and you as soon as possible.
Motion to table?
Motion to table.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Justin Gregg, 5-0. Next item is the total confirmatory resolution. This resolution, we had our declaratory at our last meeting. This is for we had our declaratory, this is our confirmatory. Sorry, it got lost there just a little bit. And this is on personal property, and this has to do with stamping dies
Retooling,
for new and improved vehicles. I'm not sure what manufacturer, but I know that
Probably a little of both.
Little of
Mostly Subaru, but also the Toyota. I think it's a little over $29 million in this round. We're eligible for the 10-year abatement.
Resolution 2. That does not say. Yeah, it does. Resolution 2, 2022. Are there comments or questions of Mike? Abatement is on personal property with a value of $29,024,202. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone who wants to speak either for or against this resolution?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Motion been made to close the public hearing. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Closed. Dustin Gregg, 5-0. Motion to approve confirmatory resolution 2, 2022. Do I have that?
Motion to approve resolution 2-2022.
Motion been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Dustin Gregg, 5-0.
Do you need a chair? You're gonna be up here.
Next item on the agenda is the Overton confirmatory resolution. This will be resolution 4, 2022. This is on personal property only also.
It is. And also, Mr. President, for the council, Mr. Scott Bowie is here, the president of Overton Industries, if you'd like to hear from him in the first person this evening. Scott, if you'd like.
Good evening, everybody. Sure you have a busy agenda tonight, so I won't take much of your time. Just appreciate the council's cooperation in past endeavors with us. Overton's been in business for 53 years. I've been with them 9 years now. This request is for personal property abatement, bringing in a new EDM wire machine to the facility here in Mooresville. While it's quite a bit smaller investment than the tooling you just approved, it's very important to us and the success of our business and to continue to provide high-paying careers for our folks. So I guess at this point, if there's any questions for me, I'm here to answer and help out in any way I can.
Questions or comments?
You may be a bit smaller, but you are a staple to this community, and we appreciate all your
We
investments.
appreciate you.
We'll say that dollar amount doesn't matter to the fine people that you employ down there, and they have been a mainstay in the community for a long time.
We plan to be here quite a bit longer, so thank you.
This is a public hearing. Are there any comments from the floor on Overton confirmatory resolution 4, 2022? Need a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Motion been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Jeff, 5-0. I need a motion to either approve or deny Resolution 4, 2022.
Motion to approve resolution 4-2022.
Motion been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Justin Gregg, 5-0.
Oh, it's you again.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh. You bought reinforcements tonight? Did they bring pizza, drinks, or anything?
Boy, I sure hope so.
There was Tully.
Failure.
Have one for Overton.
Just waiting to get everything in order.
Hey, Mike, we're working on signatures, so you can go ahead and please talk.
Would you like for me to start?
Yes, please.
President, council members, this evening we have with us some guests who would like to do a housing update for you that are partners to us here in Morgan County. Chris Pryor from my board, the Metropolitan Indianapolis Board of Realtors, and Kate Collins and Drake Anda are here this evening from the Builders Association of Greater Indianapolis. They're just going to do an update on the value of the housing in the region, the significance of what we're seeing in the market currently, how it plays toward Morgan County and Mooresville in the future. So Chris, Kate, Drake, take it away, okay? That's the last you have to hear from me.
I don't believe it.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having us out this evening. My name is Chris Pryor, as Mike said. I'm the Chief Advocacy Officer at the MIBOR Realtor Association. We're a trade association for realtors here in central Indiana. We cover 12 counties in central Indiana, so Marion County, the surrounding, plus Montgomery up to the northwest, Brown County, Decatur down to the southeast. And we've got about 8,500 realtor members that are part of our organization. So happy to be here tonight. I also have Kate Collins with us. So
yeah, my maiden
your
name
old
slipped.
name. I've known her that long. So.
Yeah. Kate Collins with the Builders Association. We are a trade group as well, representing 500 or so member firms, new home builders and developers, and all the associated trades. So anywhere from bankers to suppliers to insurance salesmen, they would fall within our purview. We're a little bit smaller than MIBOR. We represent Marion and all the donut counties, so everything around there. And our mission is to promote, educate, and network. So hopefully you'll take a smidgen away from the education portion, but we'll see.
Excellent.
Hopefully we don't bore you.
Well, and if you guys have questions at any time during this presentation, feel free to interrupt us at any point. But I think hopefully this will fit nicely with the conversation you've already had about the comprehensive plan, some tie-ins I think that we'll cover here tonight. But we wanted to share with you just a few updates on what's happening in the housing market, both with existing housing and new construction, what that means to your community, what it means to economic development and job growth here in the region and Mooresville and the county. So hopefully we'll touch on a little bit of all that. First of all, just real quickly, this is a snapshot of what's happening in the region, in the MIBOR region, if you will. So as I mentioned, we cover those 12 counties. So in the 12, I won't go over all this, but a few things I would just point out really quickly here. You guys have all heard stories about what's happening in the housing market in the news, I'm sure, about this demand is really strong, supply is really tight right now, and so there's a lot of pressure on the market right now. Homes are selling very quickly, sometimes within hours with multiple offers, and it's also putting a lot of pressure on prices. So across the region here in central Indiana, the median sales price at the end of December was $255,000. We had just over 3,000 closed sales in the month of December in central Indiana. For the entire region for the year, we ended the year just under 40,000 total home sales within the region. So 486,000 homes were sold during the past year. One of the things I would point out to you that is very concerning to us on an ongoing basis is that 0.6 months inventory. For a healthy real estate market, we like to see about 5 months of inventory available. We're now at 0.6 for the region. That means in less than half a month, if there were no listings to come onto the market, we would completely sell out of all homes on the market. There would be absolutely no homes available for interested buyers. And so that number has continued to shrink over time. We keep thinking that we're going to hit the bottom of that, and that number keeps sinking lower, so we're very concerned about that. We'll talk a little bit about what's happening here, kind of a little bit more micro level, breaking this down. So in the county, for the month of December, there were 86 homes sold last month. That's down 23% from last month, and it's down 17% from a year ago. In Mooresville, there were 21 homes sold in December. That's down 40% from last month and 25% from a year ago. And here's the thing that we've been watching continually over the last several years increase, and that's the pressure on prices. Here in Mooresville, now we're looking at a median sales price of $310,000. That is a little higher than the regional number that I mentioned earlier. Part of that can be reflected in there's a smaller number of homes that have sold here during the last month, and so that number can fluctuate a little bit more. But you can see this is a graph over time going back to 2016. So just in the last 5 years, in 2016, we were looking at a median sales price of just over $125,000 and $310,000 today. So you can see there's tremendous growth and pressure on the market. This is making it really challenging for buyers out there, right? We definitely haven't seen incomes keep up with this pace of increase over time. And so that's one of the things I think I want you to, I guess, keep in mind as you're thinking about your community and the region, is what those prices are doing to our citizens here and pressure on people trying to find homes. Again, this is looking at months of supply here locally. So for the county, we've got just over a month and a half supply of housing. But you can see, again, over time, that number is continually just worked its way down farther and farther. So it's something that we're really concerned about. Oops, skipped over one there. With Mooresville, we're just under a month. So just a quick snapshot of what's happening with existing housing. And then I think Kate's going to break over to new construction for a few.
Awesome. And I, just so you all know, I have facial paralysis on this side. So if you cannot understand me, feel free to jump in, interrupt, ask a question if I don't cover something correctly. So as Chris said, he was concerned about the existing home price. I saw today in our market graphics research report, it comes out 3 times a year, but the December report just cited, for the first time in my memory, new home prices for the area for all 9 counties, $406,000 was the average new home price. It's the first time I've ever seen it start with a 4. So definitely stood out to me as something that we don't experience often. Single family permits, this is November permit data. December permit data came out today, so unfortunately this presentation was already compiled. So I'll be happy to send that your way if you're interested. But so you're seeing this trend in Morgan County, up 21% in November. For the year, 23%. That trends with what we're seeing here in the region. I think for the region, all of the last year, we were up 20%. So.
Can I ask a question about that? Marion, what's causing the pressure on the donut counties? Are people leaving Indianapolis?
Not so much that. They are having a backlog of permit issuance because they have such a high volume, and they also process commercial, industrial, all those types of permits as well. But it is getting harder and harder to do business there. So folks are maybe less interested in some of that projects going. So we often hear about how affordable Indianapolis as a region is. I mean, it's all over the national news. We hear about it all the time. So I've read a recent article that said Indiana generally, like as a whole, is only affordable to 39% of its employees based upon household incomes. So we definitely want to take a look at what that means in a ratio basis. So per our wages. So California's wages are significantly higher than ours, so their home prices. So what does our ratio say about us? So it moved up from 2.8% to an average of 3.4%. So you can see here, average wage in Morgan County was $62,000. The median sales price, again, that's homes that were on the market, the existing homes that Chris cited, $242, putting you right about at the national average. And then the average new home price, $287. So that actually puts you at an average of 4.57. So we're all over the board when you look at the ratio of new homes, anywhere from the 4s to a high of the 6s in Marion County. Prices there have gotten steadily out of control, and their wages just haven't kept up. In Morgan County, you see a home price at $232. And the number of homes sold in the county, again, the last couple of years have kind of stayed level, but you are starting to see, I noticed in this graph, an attached product for the first time. So some new kind of home types that you haven't historically seen. New home sales in Mooresville, again, the highest was actually in 2019, but I do know that a handful of builders are really looking at Mooresville, looking to come here, wanting to grow and expand. I know that during your comprehensive plan discussion just here tonight, that we talked about Indiana's economic development leader talking about how important growth was, and it's really truly important to the workforce so that we have employees that are willing to fill these jobs so we can attract as many jobs as we want. But if we have no one there, we all know that, you know, supply issues and going to a restaurant and having to wait forever, and, you know, that all hits us. So the countywide affordability, just under 70%, but if you look at Mooresville, affordability just under 40%. So again, important to keep the homes affordable for that workforce. Mike was gracious enough to send me over types of jobs that have come here. I just really wanted to point out that the majority of jobs are those paying, you know, $30,000, $50,000, that the greatest quantity of jobs are in that $31,000 range. So what does that equate to for a mortgage? Again, as you're building out your comprehensive plan and your development ordinances and everything that goes along with that, just important to keep in mind that there's a place for everybody in the community. Your most active builders here, Hyatt Builders, Ryan Builders, and D.R. Horton in Westport. So what are some of the factors that impact the housing market? We have a variety of reasons, and obviously can't get into specifics of each of them today, but I'll try to cover a handful of things that we've noticed. One, with my board, back in 2018, we did a housing analysis of the region. And in that analysis, we were told that in the region, we're underbuilding by almost 2,000 units a year. So that was back in 2018. Obviously, we continue to see the home sale pressures go up. So we see an upward trend in home purchases and new homes. Zoning requirements, often zoning codes are written, you know, in the 70s or 80s. They just don't reflect the buyers of today. And tax caps, back before tax caps, communities were very welcoming of single-family homes, wanting people to come in and build new subdivisions everywhere, but now they're having to think a little bit differently about what that means and how they can only collect 1% property taxes. So really important to take into account the income taxes that are also generated. So I won't read through all of these for you, but regulation factors into things as well. So we often see aesthetic standards coming in. Communities are often very interested in those. These are the types of things that we see most often. And on a national basis, they account for almost a quarter of the end price of the new home. So just important to weigh the regulation. I think it's important not to have a free-for-all, but to think about, hey, what is this regulation going to do to the end cost to the user? We have a lot of folks, the not in my backyard folks, or the NIMBYs, coming to remonstrate and often cite crime or traffic or drainage. The data doesn't support these fears. Assessments don't happen. When a new home gets built, appraisers. Thank you. Appraisers aren't looking down the road 3 miles. They're really looking in your community for comps. So your 3-bedroom home is not the same as the 7-bedroom home down the street. So property tax caps. We want to make sure that we understand how density factors into property tax caps. So when a home is built and infrastructure is developed, that becomes your problem. You have to pay for its maintenance and ongoing costs. So it's really important to remember that while homes on 5-acre lots might be great, developing a more dense community means more people to pay those taxes and to help offset those costs.
One of the things we've talked about too is just long-term demand for housing. And so I want to just share this quick chart. Our research analyst pulled this together when we were going through this, but we wanted to take a look at what's the long-term outlook on housing. So we talked about kind of the shortage or the underproduction in new construction and some of the demand that's out there. We don't see the demand decreasing going forward. If anything, it's going to stay strong or even get stronger because we have large generations coming up behind us that are outnumbering current generations, and so there's not going to be, at least in our view, a decrease in that demand going forward. Because I know that's one of the questions everybody says is, what's going to happen with, what are younger people going to want? And we're also finding that younger people and older people are often wanting a lot of the same things out of housing today. A lot of people are wanting more walkable communities. They're wanting smaller lots with less to take care of in their yards and so forth. And so we're not only seeing, a strong population coming up to kind of fill that gap, but we're also seeing a lot of common interest in that. Some other things to think about that we've been talking with folks about is that we can't just build our way out of the situation we're in right now. And we need to be thinking about the diversity of product that we're offering consumers here in the region. So the types of jobs that will attract to the region will really have a strong influence on the age of households and the size of those households. But there's a lot that's changed as well in this country over time. I'm sure all of you have seen this in your own lives with your own families. But back in the 50s, 75% of households were married. Today, that's 50% or less. Back in 1950, 43% of households also were married with 2 kids. Today, that number is around 20%. And we see a variety of household formations today. We see a lot of single-person households. We also see a lot of multi-generational households and everything in between. And so one of the things I would have you think about as you're doing your planning going forward and thinking about housing proposals that may come to you is that we need to offer a greater diversity of product for consumers today. We're still continuing with 90% of what we're building today is for that traditional family back in 1950 with a married couple, 2 kids and a dog, right? We're still building the 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath product. We need to look at building some products out there that can accommodate a single person household, a multi-generational, and again, everything in between. So something to think about as you go forward and consider these. Going back to the housing study that Kate mentioned, if you look at the next 20 years, we project there's going to be about 275,000 new jobs created in the region. That equates to about 180,000 new housing units needed across the region. And as Kate mentioned, we think that we're about 2,000 units short per year. We've seen those numbers go up recently, but then they've also kind of come back down a little bit because of pressure of supply chain issues and labor issues. And so that challenge is really real. And that number compounds itself and has over the last 10 plus years. And that's one of the reasons we're in this huge predicament that we are right now, is because we've been underproducing housing for a long period of time. And now we've got a real offset in supply and demand, and really, again, creating huge pressure on prices. So we think there's a few things I wanted to leave you with here tonight of things that we think that maybe we can fix in this bigger picture. And as you think about some of the challenges of housing, I think there's some common goals that we can all get around, whether you're a council member, a builder, developer, a resident in the community. I think that we all can probably agree that we want to build and sell quality in-demand homes, develop safe, desirable communities, and create an environment that supports investment, right? I think we could all find some reason to support those. And so we would encourage you to keep those in mind. Up until now, what we've seen a lot in the development and building process is a lot of us versus them. There's a lot of battle between whether it's citizens, NIMBYs that are showing up to remonstrate against something, councils, builders, developers. We think that we need to do a better job of trying to bring all those voices together, find out what our common vision is for our communities, and get behind those three goals that we mentioned there to find win-win situations moving forward. So here's just three things I would leave you with. The entitlement process for getting approval for projects, many times right now in a lot of our communities, very time-consuming, cumbersome, and expensive for builders, developers. A lot of times they're investing hundreds of thousands of dollars up front in plans just to be told no at the end. That's a really difficult process for builders and developers to have to repeat over and over again. If we could find ways to make that process a little bit more collaborative from the beginning and find ways to make that process not so risky for people that are wanting to develop in a community, I think we can see some great wins for everybody. This certainly ties back to the conversation you had earlier. Decide what you guys want as a community and stick with it. I think this is a great tie into the comprehensive plan discussion. This is a great time for you to look at all of your plans, making sure that you seek that community input and decide what you guys want to be as a community, and then get yourselves all on the same page. The Plan Commission and the Council should be on the same page as what the community wants to see. We shouldn't be letting small local groups of folks come in last minute and throwing us completely off track of what the community said they want to see as far as the vision for our community. So I would encourage you to think about that as you're working through on your comprehensive plan going forward. And then lastly, again, I think finding ways to make it easier, faster, more affordable to build what you want in the community. A lot of times the development community has to jump through all kinds of hoops trying to figure out what the community actually wants. So I think if we can be more deliberate about what we want to see built in our community, I think we can make that a much easier process for everybody from start to finish. So again, just leave you with those three goals there that I think we could all get behind and tie back to those. And we're happy to take any questions, and certainly available at any time if you guys want more information. All of the information that we shared here tonight is available. A lot of it's on our websites, but if you guys want to drill down at any point in time on specific points within your community, we're happy to provide any of those kinds of breakdowns for you. So just phone call or email away.
Yep, and we subscribe to a handful of data sources that are third party, and so they can break down by zip code a lot of times. So if you really want to kind of get in and get those details. And again, I know that you're planning theoretically comprehensive plan. Some of the data might come in useful. And again, I think as part of a community, developers want to be partners. So as to the degree that their voice can be part of that process, the better. Chris said reducing regulatory burdens. We didn't say eliminate. We definitely want to be responsible and respectful. So knowing what the priorities are and how we achieve them, I think is a win-win for us.
And I think this all ties back, our overall message here was about housing the workforce. I think this is really critical. You guys invest a lot in your economic development initiatives. Mike's out there working his tail off all day, trying to bring in companies to invest here. And you guys have all heard, the conversations happening across there. The name of the game today is about having a talented workforce in place to attract those employers, right? And if we're 2,000 units short of housing in the region, we've got some big issues to try and tackle. If we can't house the workforce that we're trying to bring in here, we can't provide them the right type of product they're looking for, the right price of product they're looking for, in the location that they need. Those are things that are going to create challenges for us to be successful in economic development. So it's all kind of tied together. So thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Are there any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thanks to Mike for helping bring us in.
And we'll send you guys a copy of the slides so you guys have those as well.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next item on the agenda is the expired terms on all boards. Kind of go down through here. Planning Commission, we have two positions that are expired. On all of our boards, the members serve until they are either reappointed or replaced. So any meetings that we've had this month, that's fine. The Planning Commission, there are two positions that are open or up, and the first one is Josh Brown. He was an executive appointment as a Republican, and I would like to reappoint him as the executive. The second one is Kim Schofield. She was an executive appointment. Both of these appointments, or both of these members fulfilled the end of other terms, other members' terms.
Right.
So they will be reappointed from this point forward for 4 years. And Kim Schofield was an executive appointment 2 years ago. I think you appointed her. She was a Democrat. Spoke to her this afternoon, and she is more than willing to continue serving on that board, and I would like to reappoint her also. The Park Department is a council appointment. It is a non-Republican appointment. I've had a couple of members that, or a couple of non-Republicans that expressed interest but then backed out at the last moment. I don't know if the council's had an opportunity to talk to anyone, but I need more time. If anyone can find, it is a bipartisan board by statute. The position is a non-Republican, so any other verifiable party affiliation can be placed in that. So if you're out there in the audience, if you're out in the public and you want to help to make our park a better place, please send your application in or your resume in, and Diane will forward it to all of the council members. Next one is Police Commission. It is a non-Republican because we have 3 members on that. 2 of them are Republican and 1 is Democrat. Christopher Hvac expired at the end of this year. I think Chris is here tonight.
Thank you.
He did reach out and said he was more than interested in continuing to serve on that. This is a council appointment, so I would need comments, questions from the council, or a motion to reappoint him. And this is a 3-year term.
Motion to reappoint.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Justin, Greg, 5-0. Christopher, thank you very much. Look forward to you helping to make our police department even better than what it already is. The next board is our RDC. It is a 5-member board. They expire at the end of every year. 2 of the members are council appointments. Motion or comments on it?
Motion for redevelopment, motion to nominate Aaron Pipkin.
Pipkin? I have a motion to nominate Aaron Pipkin. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Who's she replacing?
I don't know, because we still have 4 more members to replace, or 4 more members to put on that. There are 2 council.
You're going through all of them?
Yes.
Okay.
So, motion was made. Greg, seconded Dustin. And again, a show of hands. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Dustin, Greg, 3-2. We have another council member, or council appointment. Comments? Motions?
Motion to reappoint Dustin to that position.
Motion made. Do I have a second?
Second again.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Greg, Dustin, 5-0. The 3 RDC executive appointments, and I went through this, and I think that you had appointed all of them: Ryan Taylor, Brian Culp, and Dana
Heidenreich.
Heinrich. I will reappoint all 3 of those. So I think they've done a good job. We do have a school board appointment. It is a recommendation by our school board. I think I'm supposed to accept that. Is that correct?
They make the recommendation, but it's still a council and an executive appointment, but it's a non-voting member of the RDC.
And this year they had
Dr. Jake Allen.
Dr. Jake Allen, and I will accept their recommendation and appoint Dr. Jake Allen to, or as a non-voting member to our RDC.
He replaced Dr. Moore.
Yes. Next item on the agenda, edit plan.
Real quick, Mr. President, sorry. What about other appointments? You still have EDC, which currently Shane and I both serve on,
Yeah.
as well as, I believe, NPO and some others. Not to derail I appreciate moving on very quickly.
Okay, let's just go through these. Let's see if we can rope you guys into this. Dustin and Shane serve on the Economic Development Corporation for Morgan County. Shane, do you want to continue doing that?
I'm open to remaining, but if someone else wants to try it, they are welcome to.
Dustin?
I'm open to remaining.
Oh, I've been roped into being vice president of that too, so might as well stay.
I need a motion to reappoint Dustin Stanley and Shane Williams to the Economic Development Commission of Morgan County.
Motion to appoint Shane Williams, Dustin Stanley, to the Economic Development Committee of Morgan County.
Motion been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Greg, Jeff. Our MPO. Hey, Shane.
Yes, sir. I'm fine staying.
Shane and Dave Moore. Do we ask Dave or just appoint him?
He's here.
Do you want to stay?
Look. Run really fast out the door.
Motion?
Motion to retain Shane Williams and Dave Moore to the MPO board.
Motion made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
I guess we need to cover that. I spoke with the town employees. In my cheat sheet, it shows that our town employees are one-year appointments. We had for our planning commission. On a different cheat sheet, it shows a 4-year, but I believe they were an annual appointment.
I believe that they're annual. I would have to look that up.
I have a I believe I do have a ordinance by number. And I think it says in the ordinance, traditionally, pursuant to IC 3674-207D. All three of them are willing to continue to serve.
Well, let me,
Our three employee appointments to the Planning Commission, again, they serve until they are either replaced or reappointed. Traditionally, I thought that they were a 1 year. I thought we did it at the end of every year. Today, those are Mark Taylor, J.D. Robinson, and Tammy Van Hook. So they will continue to serve, and at our next meeting, if they need reappointed, we can do it at that point in time. I don't know of any others, do you?
No.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the edit plan. Our edit plan is the economic, used to be called the Economic Development Income. Now it's a lit Economic Development Plan, and it is for, it can be, says that that money can be used for any town use. We have used it traditionally as a supplement to our health insurance for the employees. We have also used it as a, to fulfill the obligation of our contract with the Morgan County Economic Development Corporation. And then we have also used it to fund the maintenance of our cemeteries. This is something that has to be done every year. It is the, for the tax year 2022-2023. Comments or questions? Need a motion to approve the Economic Development Plan.
Motion to approve.
Motion been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Dustin Craig, 5-0. In the past, we have for contracts, and that brought that, this brought it up because there is just a signature of mine on contracts, and this goes back to the Community Crossings Matching Grant. Because Dave, I know that they always, when we're awarded that, they always ask if we need 5 signatures or if we need 1 signature. I need comments or a motion to allow me to sign any contracts that we have agreed upon in this chamber should the paperwork come up.
That's what we've always done.
It's how we've always done it.
So moved.
Motion been made. Do I have a second?
second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Need to bookmark that because they will want copies for the Community Crossings Matching Grant. And maybe just make a copy and send it up to Julie. Next item on the agenda is a uniform conflict of interest disclosure statement. I don't think Randy's here. Kevin, this is where Kevin does, where Randy does the cars for us, is that correct?
He does the outfitting.
The outfitting of the cars, excuse me. The lights, sirens, and what have you. And he just makes sure that it's on record that he is doing that and that there's no conflict of interest for him doing it. Are there comments or questions for Kevin? Motion to accept?
Motion to accept.
Motion been made. Do I have a second? Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
That's in Greg, 5-0.
That's for the fire truck.
Yeah, Mr. President, I think that's for my department.
Oh, well, I didn't want him doing the fire truck.
He does a good job.
I was going to say, you know, you could have said something like, oh, no, you don't want him working on a fire truck. He won't work as hard from that point on. Thank you very much.
We were back there discussing, I was like, was that mine or yours?
Well, I think we can make it both of them in case we get our wish for the cars later on. It will cover everything, correct? For a year? Okay.
No, this is an incident
Five
report.
specific.
Yes.
Okay.
5 specific fire ones, so he'll have to do another one if he does the.
Okay. I apologize, gentlemen. No, we being the Mooresville Town
Right, so-
Council. So we can just put this here, cross this out, sign here, we'll have 5 signatures.
Okay.
Be fine.
Finish filling it out.
And he's already signed his.
Yes.
We have with us this evening Chris Wilson, Superintendent of the Mooresville Park Department. Chris, congratulations. I'm thinking coming to the town council meeting for your first meeting.
I'm gonna ask for some money.
There we go.
I was told that's how to do things right, so.
There you go.
I did put information and more details than I'm really gonna go over unless you have questions. I apologize, this has been more than a 7-month process. In 2020, the Aquatic Center was closed due to COVID. We didn't open. 2021, we were open. However, our pool heater did not work the entire summer. So when we had that little snap of 58-degree weather and we still have swim lessons, it was very, very cold. So we have gone with a couple of companies, tried to see if we can get it fixed. It was suggested that there is no guarantee for the price of a fix and that the pool heater be replaced. It took us some time to get some comparable quotes. We received a quote that we would like to present. This was not a fund that we had planned, obviously, so we do not have this in our budget for Budenbaum and Moore. A copy of the quote was in your packet for $41,635. That includes all freight, installation. It fits within our footprint, so at one time there was talk of we would need a new structure to house it. That is not the case. We were able to find a model that would meet what our needs are. So we are requesting additional funding in that amount of $41,635. And we are on about an 8 to 12 week lead time, which is pool season.
Is that 8 to 12 week install though? Or is that just getting the equipment?
We're that 4 week that's in there, but they do think we should be able to get it installed and plenty of time for our initial inspection and everything for us to open May 20th or 21st.
You know, Brent always would have paid half of that out of his salary.
Well, it's a shame he's gone.
There you go. There you go. You know, when I first went on, they have a large fund of non-reverting revenue that they keep back, and I asked, why is all that money there? And the answer was, in case the bottom falls out of the pool and we got to replace it. And we still don't have enough money in there to replace the pool completely. But we need to, you know, before I would have said, why don't you spend some of your money? But in this case here, we need that money. We could have problems. And this is a real good example of it. I'm sure that it was just outside of the warranty period when it failed and all that stuff, and we don't have a choice. That pool's a pretty important part of our pool and aquatic center. We have funding mechanisms or funding tools that are put in place. Our former council members, when they adopted the food and beverage tax, said that they could, one of the specific uses, or the specific uses were surface water, sanitary water, bond payments, and park improvements. This is a acceptable use for the food and beverage. Unless gentlemen have a better idea, I feel like it's something that's important to the community. Yeah?
I agree. No, food and beverage is probably the best way to go.
Shane?
It's fine with me.
Greg? Dustin?
I'm getting messages saying you better replace the pool heater. It was very cold, so.
It was very cold.
Somebody's watching us live. Yes. Yes.
Motion to either deny or approve the request, and if it's to approve, with the funding mechanism.
Motion to approve.
With food and beverage?
Food and beverage, have food and beverage.
Motion been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Greg, Dustin, 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And congratulations.
Sorry.
Should all have a copy of a resolution that Ms. Copeland drafted for me on some surplus property at the police department. Just need your approval to dispose of that in a proper manner.
Guns that we're selling back.
That is correct.
To the, and for the public, it's the exact same what we would have got in trade-in, right?
Correct.
I mean, it's a wash. Motion to approve or deny Resolution 5/2022, and this is declaring the guns as surplus to where they can be purchased by the officers for the same amount that we would have got traded in. There's no discount.
Motion to approve the surplus resolution 5/2022.
Motion been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Jeff, Dustin, 5-0.
Would you mind if I did my department head real quick?
Department heads? Oh, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I know we've been discussing the body cameras, and I have reached out. I know I have reached out to both you and Councilman Cook on what's going on with that. I have reached out to Motorola Solutions, who does WatchGuard, and I'm waiting on their response. I've received a couple of other from another vendors talking about how this same kind of system might be, so it might be covered in the grant. I don't know yet. We're still waiting on what, because it looks more like it's a subscription service. They're not really covering that. They want you to own the camera, so I don't know if they're going to be able to modify that in a way that we can do that or not, so I'm still waiting on the answers for that. I got the statistics for 2021, the whole year. For incident reports, we did 2,532 actual law incident reports. Individuals arrested were 448. We wrote 840 citations, 2,401 warnings, Total service calls that we received for the police department was 25,144. We investigated 456 accidents. 404 of those were property damage, 50 of those were personal injury. We had 1 hit and run and 1 fatality. Other than that, if you want to need a little bit more detail that, I can give that to you. But that's about all we have for right now. Any questions?
The warning, say it again.
The warnings?
How many?
2,401.
Shows that they're stopping the people, they're telling them what they're doing wrong and asking them not to do it again. You should be the most proud of that. That's impressive.
Well, I'll give you, I thought I had it all here. I did for total traffic stops that we did last year was 4,630. So,
That's included in that, so half.
yeah. So, I mean, some of those, we didn't do anything other than, it might have been checking for an OWI or whatever, but that's how many cars we actually stopped for the year.
That's good community policing.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Okay, in front of you. Surplus.
You want me to talk about this one? Property tax one.
If you want me to, or you can.
Either way. Okay. In front of you, you should have a copy of Resolution 6, 2022. This is to address certain legislation that's going through the State House right now. There's a proposal from the legislature to get rid of permanently the business personal property tax. Generally, people like to think, oh, getting rid of a tax is a good thing. However, when you talk about a municipality and its funding mechanisms, there are some issues with this. First of all, a lot of your TIF funds, your redevelopment funds are going to come out of these sorts of taxes. These are what abatements are attached to and things of that nature. And so without a replacement funding system, it's going to be extraordinarily difficult for municipalities to continue down the road that they have with their economic development. The bigger thing that I think is of concern that I think each community needs to think about, and each resident in the community, is when you talk about your assessed valuation, your levy, and the property tax caps. I haven't looked into Mooresville, but if the personal residential properties are not at the 1% cap, and you lose the business personal property tax, that means you need to collect additional monies to meet your maximum levy, and so it's going to hit those residential properties, commercial and ag, until it gets to the property tax caps. And so there's a potential that this will impact everybody's own taxes that they get every year that they pay into the county. This resolution is essentially making a statement for the town of Mooresville, indicating that without a replacement tax, that they oppose the dissolution of the business personal property tax. This is a movement that AIM has put together and is trying to push statewide, not necessarily opposed to the elimination of a business personal property tax, but if you're going to do that, give an alternative revenue source for communities so that they don't have all the issues that could come down the pike. Happy to answer any questions. Go ahead.
Do we know how much currently Mooresville receives?
No, it would.
Or how this would impact us right now if the business personal property went away?
We would.
Okay. I forwarded the email from AIM to legal counsel, and also they had kind of a generic, and also to Baker Tilly. The response back was, and they kind of wanted this, that AIM said, hey, this is legislation that's currently being considered, the quicker the better. The response back from AIM, or from Baker Tilly, was, we can do this, it will take an analysis, take a little bit of time, we're working on other people's that got to them first, apparently, and not to exceed $10,000. And I don't know how long it would take. I know they're working on our capital improvement, and I thought the comment, with legal counsel was, this is just a generic, there's 2,300 taxing entities in the state of Indiana, and everyone's probably filling them out now. So the numbers aren't going to be what impacts them. The state of Indiana knows how much we're getting from business personal property. They eliminated, and Shane, this will hit kind of close to home with you, they eliminated the old inventory tax. You remember, go buy a car today because we have inventory tax.
Right.
They did that in '99. But what they did at the same time was they took the sales tax from 5% to 7%. One of those pennies went to replacement of the inventory tax, and the other penny went to the schools. So they made a permanent fix for it. And right now they're not really talking about a permanent fix for this. And we just want to get on the bandwagon to say, hey, this could adversely affect them. Because one of the other things that, when he talked about that tax cap is 1% on residential, 2% on agriculture and rental property, and 3% on business. So when they take that dollar out of there that they could be getting 3 cents out of, that's where we kind of get in trouble there, is it's going to be a bigger impact. I understand what Paige was saying was, this is going to take to narrow it down to the exact penny, but I don't think the state needs that. I think they just need to say, hey, there's 10,000 plus or minus voters in Mooresville that don't want you to do this. And that's what we're doing.
So you think that the end result would be it would shift it from the business tax to the taxpayer to the residential is a potential problem?
It is a potential problem. If there's no replacement revenue source, then the money's gonna have to come somewhere for your max levy, right? And so if they take this away and nothing's filling that gap, and that gap's gonna come someplace. And so if you have areas between the 1% cap, the 2% cap,
right,
then that's where it's gonna be funded.
They're not even proposing an alternate.
There's some discussions in there, but right now there's no alternates out there.
You have members of our state Congress that's in other chamber rooms talking about lowering the sales tax, and that's it's crazy. How I get it with trying to save everyone money, but we're limited to how much money we can raise.
And one of the things to really keep in mind when you have these discussions, and because of the communities that I work with, I deal with this all the time, is when you talk about what companies look for to put their headquarters and put their buildings and factories. Yeah, they look at the property taxes and what kind of impact they're going to have. Indiana is ranked first in the country when it comes to those sorts of taxes. The other thing that they look at, though, is quality of life. And the quality of life is provided for by your local communities and the parks you build, the roads you have, the police, the fire, the amenities you have in your local communities. You guys pay for that through the property taxes and the monies that you collect through the businesses here. The continued attack on the revenue sources for local communities is diminishing communities' ability to really address quality of life issues and questions, like your heater in the pool, things of that nature. I would say 3 years ago when we were doing another fight like this, there was a large company that chose a location in New Jersey over a location in, I think, St. Joe's County. New Jersey's tax rate was much, much, much higher. But they were able to offer a lot more things for families because of its location and proximity to New York City, things of that, so that's why they made that decision. It's not just the tax environment that benefits this, it's the quality of life that your local communities are able to provide. And this would eat directly into that. That was me on my soapbox, sorry.
Okay. Comments or questions?
This one makes me feel like a politician because I would like to see that eliminated for small business, but at the same time, we've got the taxpayer to consider. So this one's the residential taxpayer to consider, I think, in the long run. So this one's a little tougher for me, but
I always talk about the 2008 referendum, and it was a referendum that said, do you want to put a tax cap on your property tax, 1% tax cap? And at that time, I think there was 1 or 2 townships in Lake County that had a 1% tax rate or that was exceeding that. The fine print said, do you want to cap your personal property or your residential occupied property at 1%, residential rental and farm at 2%, and business at 3%. It didn't say, do you want to limit the money that local governments spend? It said, do you want us to shift the burden of collection? So now we're going to collect it from the rental properties. Now we're going to collect it from the business properties. Well, the sad part is the business properties, they're going to collect it from the people that's buying the stuff. So, it just said, do you want to shift the burden? In this case here, are they going to shift the burden? Are they going to give us another revenue source to continue to, because I think our tax levy went up $134,000 last year. That's all it went up, was $134,000. If we start seeing that tax rate is more than 1% at the residential level, residential occupied level, then what they're going to say is it's capped at 1%. You just don't get that money.
Right.
We just don't collect it. So I'm torn also. Hey, that's the way we're going to attract people. Say, look at our tax rate. Look how low our tax rate is. I don't know when to buy a car now, so because we don't have those advertisements saying it's tax time, go buy a car. But the truth of the matter is, we still need the revenue. I don't think this council is wasteful by any means. And to say, hey, we may lose some of our revenue sources, I don't think that's, I think we may be being punished. So, yes, you do feel like a politician, but on the same token, we still want to provide the services. Any other comments? Greg? Dustin?
None.
Motion to either approve or deny Resolution 6, 2022.
Motion to approve Resolution 6-2022.
Motion been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Dustin and Greg, 5-0. It may be futile. We may not have anyone at the State House that even looks or reads or listens to this, but AIM will at least try for us. Other department heads.
So just for your guys' knowledge, we have a meeting set for this Thursday to talk with the tax financial impact with the territory. We should have more hopefully within the next council meeting, just keeping you guys updated on that. So we do have that back from Paige. Also with, I started talking to the school in December, and I have a inter-agreement fuel contract with them to save us money, basically. We'd started it back with Chief Metzger. I didn't understand why we kind of stopped. Reached out to Joe Craig with the transportation to the school. Basically, have got back into doing that, and I just have a contract here for you guys to look at, and basically just get it either approved or not. I've already kind of signed it. Their school board have signed it. Basically, it's saving us some money. I think if Tammy and my figures were calculating right, we were spending about $2.78. Once everything gets deducted off of our fuel cards, we're paying $1.81.
Do they have a rewards card?
No.
Anything else while he looks at that?
I have nothing further unless you have anything for me.
We can go with next. They buy it in bulk, we go get it.
Yeah, it's, interlocal agreements are supposed to be in a different form. Not gonna, I think you proceed with this if the AG throws it, we have to get the proper form.
Did you hear that?
A word. Did you hear us?
So generally speaking, when you talk about interlocal agreements, there's a statutory format that you have to follow, who's going to be in control of this, who's going to do this and that, and possibly approval from the AG's office. This is a savings for the town. My position is, let's go ahead and work off of this agreement, and if the AG throws a fit, then we'll readdress the contract. But let's go ahead and start the savings.
They might have something more. That's just what he sent me today after everybody signed on their end. So there might be more, I just don't know. Like I said, I know Chief Metzger had done this years ago. And then like I said, I don't know if it was one of those things when they moved out to the new location, it just kind of got missed and we never got included into that or what. But then when I started talking about it, that's when everything came to light and then started going back out there.
Can you,
Go ahead, you want to
can
see it?
I see that?
Yeah.
Or may I see it? So we're gonna buy fuel from the school system. It's housed at the bus garage or?
Correct.
You wanna see that?
I know about it, yeah.
Okay.
I think you may have started that, didn't you? Over at the old
Been a
building?
long time, but yeah, it's always been a program that's worked out good for us and them, you know, because I think they maybe get a price based on how much they purchase, so.
They do your windows and check your oil too.
I think you guys get keys, I mean, you go over.
We
and
have
do it.
proxy keys, and that gets us in. It basically goes to the vehicle. We have special codes, so I have a code that I have to type in every time I get fuel out of there. Division Chief Robinson or any of the guys that are in the trucks, they have a code that it's all documented. I think we got our first bill the other day, and it was
in there.
Yeah, it was like $81 for, I think, I don't remember exactly the gallons, but it was for like 4 trucks. Two fire engines and a ladder, and then my vehicle and Division Chief Robinson's.
So we're already doing it anyway, it sounds like.
Well, we'd started it, and
Yeah.
like I said, I was hoping to have this done already,
Okay.
but they just gave it to me.
Can you get Brown Township's number?
Brown Township has it already, yeah.
Thing, can you
Yeah.
get their number?
We can try.
Brown Township does it too.
Madison's doing it, Brown's doing it.
Motion to approve the fuel agreement, the interlocal fuel agreement.
So moved.
Been made, do I have a second? Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Justin, Jeff? 5-0.
Assuming that all of you need to sign that. and then
Yes.
get it back to whoever.
Well, I think we want a copy of it.
Yes, and then I'll get a copy and get it Diane.
Good evening. I got a couple of housekeeping issues. I'd like to start off talking about the guardrail at Casey's General Store. It's been smashed for several years, actually. They fixed it once. We asked them to fix it. They fixed it. However, it wasn't long after that, it was smashed again. If we could possibly reach out to Casey's and ask if maybe we could fix it in-house. I think it's on right away, it's their property, but I don't think they're interested in fixing it again. It's quite an eyesore there at that corner. I'd just like to see if the council has some direction on how they would like for me to handle that.
You provided a document, didn't you, or you contacted Casey's and their attorney?
I did. I contacted the attorney. They gave us a limited time frame. We gave them a limited time frame, I think, to fix it on our right-of-way. That expired, and that was their comment back to me. It was like, yeah, we fixed it. The right-of-way is expired, and kind of left it at that. So not getting a lot of cooperation on their part to put more money into that. I don't think a guardrail is going to work, possibly some bollards to be installed there. And we have put up signage to try to direct trucks from turning on Indianapolis Road and on out Samuel Moore. So
they would go straight to 67 that way instead of turning right up past to Bridge to Lowe's, past Lowe's.
Right.
Well, I think, Shane, you'd sent them a letter back before you were even on the council, and they reached out and said, hey, that's yours, take it out, or, you guys need to fix it. And that time, we researched it, found out that it wasn't ours, it is on their property, and they asked to put it up because they put their sign that close. They had a variance to put the sign that says Casey's and has the price that close. I think at that time, your comment was, I'm gonna take a backhoe over there and jerk the poles out of the ground and we're done. Then they're gonna knock their sign down. And I think that's what I reiterated was our Department of Public Works Director said that if you consider it to be ours, we will pull it out of the ground. So it won't look bad. And then they fixed it. I think it's an eyesore. I think it's going to happen again. I think the bollards, we talked about the big curbs and stuff like that. But I think that we need to forward to them what our intentions are as compared to what they may want their intentions to be.
Did you provide their documentation to the attorney at all? Or was that just sent to the council? I didn't.
No, he did send it to
Okay.
us, and it's just how we wanted to proceed. Now, the one question I had, you just mentioned, when they put their sign up, that they got a variance to put up in such proximity to the property line?
Yes.
And as part of that, they got the guardrail? Was that
I
as
think
part of the variance?
I don't think that was part of the variance. Do you? I don't remember. It's been about 3 years ago.
For some reason, I was thinking that our planning commission asked that to be put there to protect the sign, but I can't remember. I wasn't at that meeting. But I can't remember.
I mean, we can put together a letter to them, basically saying, with this history, you got a variance to put your sign up at that location. We gave you permission to put the guardrail because you want to protect your investment. If you don't want to improve that, we'll take it out, and then we'll just leave it that way. And then their sign will get hit by a truck that comes through there. And
What are you seeing as far as the truck traffic? Has it stopped? Has it slowed down, or do you know?
I've noticed it has decreased. The turns there, the turning movements there have decreased. However, it still happens occasionally.
Guidance from the council? Jeff, what do you think?
Have legal send a letter. We got the attorney's contact information, get that to Jewel and fire a letter off.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would agree with that, and then assuming that works out, have Dave come up with a solution to his liking.
Listen, consensus is, have at it.
The corner building up here at 1 and 3 East Main, I've been in constant contact with the owner. All the services have been retired. The gas was retired January 10th. He is still in contract with the LaFerry Group out of Martinsville. I called Nick LaFerry today. He stated that since it was such a long time before the gas was disconnected, that he took on a few more jobs in Martinsville. He's got some houses to tear down and a parking lot to put in, but as soon as that was complete, he would be up here to take the building down. He indicated that it would be at least 3 more weeks before they were able to come to town. So that's where we're at with that one.
Do their demolition permits expire?
No, they don't expire. However, he does have a building permit that expires in April, which we'll have to discuss since it's not going to build now, how we move forward with that. And then the last thing I have is in front of you. We've had some issues with our HVAC system here in this building. So I reached out to a couple of businesses that come in and took a look at it. One technician stated that our boiler has reached its life expectancy. It was put in 18 years ago. Do you remember? 15 to 18 years ago. So I asked for kind of a snapshot. What do we need to do? I haven't heard anything from Economy yet, but these Train, I think they're out of Greencastle, but they put together this opportunity snapshot. It's kind of a Cadillac looking at LED lighting, the air handlers, and the boiler replacement or the HVAC replacement. There's a lot of things to talk about with this, which direction we want to go. Do we want to go back with a boiler? The boiler, we have water pipes all over the building. Do we want to go a different direction? I think maybe I'm here asking for direction from the council. How do we want to proceed with this? Do we want to keep just slapping Band-Aids on it? Do we want to get a group together and talk about our options?
Comments or questions?
Obviously, it's a problem. I mean, we've had employees not able to make it to work this year due to how cold it was. So, I mean, we need to have it looked at for sure, what direction we want to go.
Dane?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out would you prefer to form a committee to meet with Dave or something like that and look at options, or?
What I'd kind of like to see is maybe to look at, we got that $2 million just sitting in the bank, burning a hole in our pocket. I'd kind of like to look at maybe all of the buildings in the town of Mooresville, all of the taxpayer-owned buildings in the town of Mooresville.
That's a lot of buildings.
Except for the police department, because that is fairly new. And maybe look at what we can do. I know that was one of the big, in the original presentation of what we could do with that COVID money, the $2 million was HVAC systems, because they want a better way to move our air around. So I'm all for setting up a committee for someone to take a look at it and maybe just not limit it to this building.
Fine with me, yeah, I agree.
Everyone step forward at once.
How about the bookends, Tom and Cook? Tom Worthing and Cook.
I was going to say.
I'll be on it.
We'll do it.
Okay.
We didn't even have to say not it this time.
Find someplace that has a rewards card, because we've not found them yet.
And the thing to remember about these types of product, this unfortunately is not.
I know, it's not professional services,
And so we're gonna have to do an RFP or something of the like out of here. I mean, a lot of these projects, the way that this is drawn up in front of us from this one is that it is essentially energy savings opportunity. There's a lot of scrutiny on those, so you want to make sure that you get.
They can prove it.
Yeah.
But in one of the other things, one of the other issues, or one of the things that I said to Dave was, when we hired a company to come in, design, do the rehabilitation on our police station, their engineering came up with one plan for air handling, and the people that got the contract come into it and say, yeah, we like what they're doing, it's great, but we can do this, it's better, and it's a deduct on the bid. And that's one of the companies that you've reached out to that came in, and they explained why it was, and we went ahead and went with that at that point in time. So I think every company that we contact, whether it's Train or whether it's Economy or someone like that, I think everyone that we talk to may have their own idea on how they can best do it. Is that comparing apples to apples? Obviously, it's going to be over this $50,000 or $75,000 threshold, but I think, can we, if Dave and Jeff and I word it to where we want a plan of how you would heat this building, is that acceptable?
Yeah, I mean, I think your RFP could be whatever. It could be just this building, or come up with a update plan for the town-owned buildings in Mooresville, and bringing them up to new HVAC standards or whatever. I think you can craft it that way, and then you're going to get each person that comes in is going to say, okay, we think this is the best way, and this is how much it costs.
A lot of lights out.
This is the best way, this is how much it costs. And then you weigh those out, you score them, and you guys decide as a council which one you like the best, and you move forward that way.
We're working towards that goal.
It's a task we'll take on. I've missed a couple meetings. Anybody have any questions for me? Here I had a
Are you doing all right?
task put.
There you go.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Yeah, you had 2 tasks put before you by April, first meeting in April.
Thank you.
Any other department heads?
There's a lot of lights out in here right now. You ordered them? Okay. I just noticed I saw one go out during the meeting.
Legal counsel.
I have nothing for you this time.
There's a claim in there for the electric bill, and they did say that they were going to start turning them off one at a time. Public comments. Council comments. Jeff? None. Shane?
I just would like to say something about my vote against Aaron Pipkin. I think Virginia Perry's done a good job on the redevelopment commission, and she's one of the few that will ask a tough question in public, and I think the town needs more people like that on our boards. So that's the reason I was against that appointment, because I thought she should remain on the commission. So that's all I have to say.
I know you like saving bills, but you skipped over the claims.
Oh, darn it. I did, didn't I? Do you have any comments?
I do. With the commissioners moving forward, it seems to get rid of buffer zones. I would like to explore creative options to get the word out about annexation, how we can maybe clean up our lines. So I'm gonna kind of sit down and give 5 seconds worth of thought and team up with legal and see what we can come up with. And also about appointments, I would like to move appointments to the end of December, so we're not doing this in January or February while we're conducting business for the following year. So that is my only comment about that, unless you really want me to do claims.
If we don't approve the claims, we don't have to pay them. Motion to approve payment of claims.
Make a motion to approve claims in the amount of $768,060.88.
Can't sign it. I put my pen up.
I'll second.
Motion made. Who's the second?
Yes. I seconded.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Justin, Shane, 5-0.
No, I was gonna give.
Our next meeting day will be Tuesday, February 1st, 2022. I need a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn. Sorry, Jeff.
Motion made. Do I have a second?
Nope, Jeff did it. I second.
Okay. Jeff, Dustin, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Jeff, Dustin.
Be safe, Jeff.
5-0.
Oh, it's better. I called over at 10. So. No, it's better.
I don't even know if we have a claim in there, so Wasn't gonna say anything. No, you don't have one. Yours is not in there. He bills through.